There is an ancient observation in the East. If you spend your afternoon chasing a butterfly, it will always stay exactly 1 inch beyond your reach. Your frantic movement creates a wind that pushes the very thing you desire further away. But if you spend that same afternoon sitting in absolute stillness, tending to your own garden, the butterfly will eventually land softly on your shoulder. This is the first great paradox of power. The universe does not hear what you say, it feels what you lack. In the modern world, we are taught that hunger is a virtue. We are told to stay hungry and stay foolish. We are conditioned to believe that the more we want something, a deal, a person, a promotion, the more likely we are to get it. But in the cold, precise logic of the strategist, hunger is a scent, and to the world, that scent smells like a weakness. When you project need, you are broadcasting to everyone around you that you are incomplete. You are signaling that your internal value is tethered to an external outcome. The moment you need a yes from someone else, you have handed them the keys to your kingdom. You have become a servant to the result. Today, we decode the logic of the void. We will explore why the most dangerous person in any room is the one who is truly ready to walk away, and how you can manufacture a gravitational force of abundance by mastering the art of wanting nothing. To understand the mechanics of this abundance logic, we must look at one of the most famous psychological stalemates in history, the 3 visits to the straw hut. In the year 207 AD, the warlord Liu Bei was desperate. He was a man of high ambition but dwindling resources, hunted by his enemies. He needed a mind that could save his legacy. He sought out the legendary Zhuge Liang. Now, imagine the scene. Zhuge Liang was a young man of immense genius, living as a hermit in the mountains. He knew Liu Bei was coming. He knew the fate of the empire was at his door. A lesser man would have rushed out to meet the great warlord, desperate for a chance to prove his brilliance on the world stage. Most of us, in our scarcity, would have seen this as the opportunity of a lifetime and clung to it with sweaty palms. But Zhuge Liang understood the logic of positioning. The first time Liu Bei arrived, Zhuge Liang was away. The second time, he left a vague message and disappeared into the mists. The third time, Liu Bei waited outside in the freezing snow for hours while Zhuge Liang slept. Inside the hut, the silence was a weapon. By staying in his void, by showing that he was perfectly complete without Liu Bei's wars and titles, Zhuge Liang was performing a psychological siege. He forced a king to become a beggar. He forced the need to migrate from the cottage to the throne. When Zhuge Liang finally opened his door, he wasn't just an advisor, he was a savior. Because he was willing to lose the opportunity, he gained total leverage over it. This is the algorithm of the master. Value is not determined by what you give. It is determined by what you are willing to withhold. Why does the world flee from the chaser? Because of a phenomenon we call the mirror of desire. When you approach a negotiation, a relationship, or a goal with a scarcity mindset, you are operating from a frequency of lack. Your brain is focused on what is missing. This creates an invisible tension, a clinging energy that triggers a primal defense mechanism in others. People can sense when you are trying to take something from them, whether it's their money, their time, or their validation. Think of the ink wash of your soul. If your canvas is filled with the red ink of desperation, the world will react with resistance. But if your canvas is a vast, calm void of black and white, you become a mirror. When you sit across from an opponent and you truly, deeply do not need their approval, a terrifying thing happens to them. They begin to project their own insecurities onto your silence. They start to wonder why you are so calm, what you know that they don't, or if you have a better offer. By doing nothing, you have forced them to negotiate with their own shadows. This is the logic of the ocean. The ocean doesn't go around asking the rivers for water. The ocean simply stays at the lowest point, in absolute stillness. And because of its depth and its position, all the rivers in the world have no choice but to flow into it. Abundance is not about getting. It is about becoming a destination. In the West, philosophers call this the backwards law. The more you pursue feeling secure, the more anxious you feel. The more you pursue being wealthy, the more poor you feel, regardless of the numbers in your bank account. In Oriental Logic, this is the mastery of Neisheng Wai Wang, the inner saint and the outer king. The inner saint is the part of you that has realized the ultimate truth. you are already whole. The universe is a closed system. You cannot truly lose anything because everything is transient. When you cultivate this inner state of fullness, your external actions take on a quality of action through non-action. You still work, you still negotiate, you still plan, but you do it with the logic of the game. You play the game with intensity, but you are not attached to the score. Imagine a gambler who is playing with house money, money he has already won. He plays with a fearlessness that a man playing with his last cent can never replicate. Because he isn't afraid to lose, he makes the boldest moves. He sees the patterns clearly, he doesn't flinch when the stakes rise. This is how you must approach your life. You must treat your goals as house money. When you realize that you are already full within, you stop being a consumer of reality and start being an architect of it. The person who wants the least is always the one who sets the terms, because the person who wants the least has the highest walkaway power. And in the game of destiny, walkaway power is the only true power. So, how do we master this? How do we stop the chasing when the world is screaming at us to want more? It begins with the ritual of detachment. Before you enter any high-stakes situation, perform the death of the outcome. Spend a few moments visualizing the worst result. Imagine you don't get the deal. Imagine they say no. Imagine you are rejected. See yourself standing in that void and realize that the sun still rises. Your value as a human being is still intact. Your Jing, your internal energy, is still yours. Once you have accepted the void, you have killed the need. And once the need is dead, you are free. You enter the room not as a seeker, but as a presence. You are the deep, dark pool of ink that reflects everything but is moved by nothing. You will find that when you stop leaning toward the world begins to lean toward you. People will seek your counsel, opportunities will seek your attention. Stop leaking your power through the cracks of your desires. Close the gate, tend to your garden. Build a soul that is so abundant, so complete in its own silence, that the world has no choice but to land softly on your shoulder. This is Oriental Logic.